So, today we're going to talk about something pretty wild: how artificial intelligence is completely ripping up the playbook for military training. We're moving away from those old, predictable drills and into a totally new era, one where soldiers can actually prepare for the real chaos of a modern battlefield. Okay, so to really get this shift, you got to look back a bit. For decades, training was all about scripted scenarios. You can kind of think of it like a play. Everybody knows their lines, their cues, where to stand. The problem? Well, a real firefight isn't a play. It's improv. It's totally adaptive and unpredictable. And that created this huge, dangerous gap between the training room and the real world. And that brings us to the core issue here, this predictability problem. You see, when a soldier can just memorize the sequence of events in a simulation, they aren't really learning to think on their feet, are they? No, they're learning how to pass the test, not how to actually survive when things go sideways. And this quote right here, it hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the weakness. Old school training just doesn't build the skills that matter most now: thinking critically and improvising. I mean, when you're faced with something you haven't rehearsed, what happens? You can freeze, and that's a massive problem. But this is where AI walks onto the stage. And it's not just some minor upgrade. It is a total game changer. It's the technology that can finally close that gap between training and reality. So let's break down how this tech evolved from really simple rules to something that can actually learn. Okay, so the first step on this ladder, it's something people affectionately call good old-fashioned AI. This is your most basic, rule-based system. Think, if you see an enemy, then you shoot. It works, for really simple things, but the world isn't simple, and this kind of AI just can't handle any gray area. Then came the next massive leap: machine learning. Now, instead of a human writing 1,000 if-then rules, the system starts to teach itself by just looking at tons and tons of data. It spots patterns and starts making its own predictions. This is the point where the bad guys in the simulation start feeling a lot less like clunky robots and more like they're actually thinking. And then we get to reinforcement learning. And honestly, this is where things get truly transformative. Imagine an AI on the simulation that learns just by trial and error. It's kind of like it's playing a video game on super speed. It tries a tactic, it works, it gets a reward point. It tries something else, it fails, it gets a penalty. After millions of tries, it doesn't just learn our tactics, it starts inventing its own, finding weaknesses no human programmer would have ever spotted. So on top of that core learning engine, you start layering on other cool AI tech to make the whole thing feel, well, real. Deep learning, that's what makes the visuals and the sounds so lifelike you'd swear you were there. Natural language processing, or NLP, that lets you actually talk to virtual civilians or teammates. And agent-based modeling, that's the magic that makes a crowded city feel alive and chaotic, not just full of mindless drones. Okay, so that's the tech. It's super impressive, for sure. But what's the so what? I mean, what does all this incredible technology actually do for the soldier in the training simulation? How does it help make them better? Well, the impact is huge. First off, the realism is just on another planet because the AI is learning from your tactics in real time. It adapts. That forces you to ditch the script and actually think. Then there's personalization. The AI can crank the difficulty up or down on the fly, keeping you right in that perfect learning zone. This lets you practice over and over in a safe space, but with endless variation, so you learn way faster. And the whole time, you're getting cold, hard data on your performance. And this quote right here sums it all up. The end goal here isn't to make a cooler video game. It's about using all this tech to create a warfighter who is fundamentally more resilient and way more adaptable. Those are the traits that really matter. And that personalization piece is so important. The AI is basically the perfect coach. It watches you, it sees you're struggling with, urban combat scenarios. So what does it do? It instantly starts generating more of those specific scenarios custom-built just to hammer on that one weakness until it becomes a strength. Now, as amazing as all this sounds, we have to be real. It's not a magic bullet. There are some serious hurdles to clear before this stuff is perfected. But on the flip side, the future possibilities are just staggering to think about. So you have to ask, is it a perfect solution? The short answer is no, not by a long shot. And the road ahead is this really fascinating mix of major roadblocks and incredible opportunities. This table lays it out pretty clearly. On the one hand, you have the hurdles, and they're big ones. Data bias is a huge deal. The classic garbage in, garbage out problem. If you train an AI on flawed data, you're going to get a flawed AI. And of course, the stuff is incredibly expensive and complex. But then you look at the other side, the future frontiers, and wow, we're talking about AI that can explain why it made a tactical choice. Or digital twins, perfect one-to-one virtual copies of real-world cities that you can use for mission rehearsal. So ultimately, this all comes down to building the right guardrails. You can't just create these incredibly powerful systems and let them run wild. It's all about responsible innovation. Putting in the hard work to verify the AI is behaving correctly and to stamp out problems like data bias before they create unintended consequences. It's a huge challenge. Which brings us to our final thought for the day. As these AI simulations get so good that they're basically indistinguishable from reality, we're left with this fascinating question. What about the human stuff? How do we train for things like intuition, morale, or making a tough ethical call under fire, the things an AI might never be able to replicate? That right there is the challenge at the very heart of what's coming next.